Well, what do you think, Dr. Kratz? Should we get started or wait a couple more minutes?
Let's just talk. We can get going. Yeah. We're just
Okay.
here to just kind of bust it open like this whole topic, right?
Yep. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending the ASWIS live series on sports social work. We plan on hosting a few series. This one's just kind of to get into it, offer an introduction into what the heck is sports social work. I feel like it's becoming a hot term that people are like, hey, paying attention. What is that? And as they should, because we're awesome and social workers rock, right? And athletics rocks, right? So with that, I am here with Dr. Stacy Kratz. My name is Stephanie Rosado. Dr. Kratz is someone near and dear to my heart. She is my mentor. She was one of my instructors at USC for my MSW. So shout out to them. So let me provide a little intro to Dr. Kratz. She's been described as a sports social worker and interprofessional partner focusing on everything from sport advocacy, direct practice, policy change, and innovative ideas. As an author, professor, and sport for social development and peace leader. Bent on escalating the capacity of global sport for development and peace through innovation, Stacy Kratz is a member of the executive board of the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports. Whoop, whoop. As clinical assistant professor at USC, not only is she faculty lead for the Sports Social Work Task Force, she teaches across the curriculum, co-leading the policy sequence coursework. Dr. Kratz has been honored with multiple awards, including the university's Jane Addams Faculty Award. She is a change agent and engages in extensive community work for her community and the school, including the Curriculum Development Committee and the Department of Social Change and Innovation, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Team Co-Lead. Her most recent publication is a co-authored chapter on the evolution of social work education. Dr. Kratz has presented globally on sport for development, peace, and social justice, most recently in Cape Town, South Africa, for the Association of Schools of Social Work and Social Welfare in South Africa. Expanding on this work, Dr. Kratz designed and co-led the first ever USC Global Immersion to South Africa that addressed social change and innovation in the South African context. She is excited to continue her work in South Africa to harness the power of sport, the sport platform, to create stronger communities for all. And she's just amazing. Themes that run throughout Dr. Kratz's Sports for Social Development practice are the way ideas spread, the promotion of still-like leadership, and most of all, how to change everything. She enthusiastically welcomes opportunities to collaborate and loves to connect on Twitter at Social Work Pulse and LinkedIn and through email. So I'm sure she'll drop her contact information later on. So welcome, Dr. Kratz. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Steph, I'm humbled, really, and it's so good to do anything when we're together. So, and the marriage of sport and social work. I mean, how much better can it get?
Yeah.
So I know we have lots of time, but I remember that when you were a student, a graduate MSW student, and you were in one of my classes, and we were writing an op-ed, and that was the assignment. And Stephanie, you decided to write an op-ed about sport, and you submitted it to the Fort Wayne Journal, right?
Journal Gazette.
Journal Gazette, yeah. And that was the first time that I was like, this girl, she's got it going on, and we're just going to keep together forever. So that was probably 4 years ago, right? 4 or 5 years ago?
That's crazy. Yeah, to think about how long it was ago.
Yeah.
Thank you for rekindling that memory for me.
Love that.
So with that, let's get started. For all of you joining in, this is Stacy Kratz. I'm Stephanie Rosado. We are both on the executive committee team for ASWIS. Tag people, share this live for people that you think that may be interested or that just want to learn more. We're going to get right into it. Again, this series is just to learn a little bit more about sports social work, what it looks like, and kind of define it a little bit for everyone. So, Dr. Kratz, what's all buzz about sports social work? Well, how can you explain that to those that may not be aware of sports social work or just tuning in for the first time, new students, new grads?
Oh, the buzz about sports social work. It is buzzing. There's a lot of people to help keep that buzz alive because we know we have a lot of work to do. You know, we see at the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports, we see athletes as a vulnerable population, and social workers, their primary focus are those that are vulnerable, disenfranchised, and at risk, and we pay particular attention to those living in poverty, right? Vulnerable, disenfranchised, and at risk, and those living in suffering in poverty, and we see that play out in the athletic arena too. That's one aspect of sports social work. The other aspect that I really like to talk about is sports social work anywhere where sport and the athletic arena intersect with social work, which is the profession that's focused on social justice. And so we use sport and the athletic arena to build strong communities focused on social justice and focused on a view that, of course, Black Lives Matters has brought to the full attention of the whole entire world, that we must live and work towards anti-racism. And that's in sport as well, and how we use sport for individual development, but family development and community development. Just bringing it all back, the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports was formed from original members, which I was not one of the original members. And they came together and they brought this idea that we have to do better in our profession to ensure that athletes, their families, and the communities where they live are bolstered and strengthened and supported and advocated for, so that we have a better world. Because it's my belief that there's no such thing as a strong community that doesn't have strong sports programming and a sport influence in that community.
That's amazing. Every time I hear you speak about sports social work, it just really inspires me all over again, because you can just sense the passion. And something I kind of want to go back to that you said is that sense of community. Like, a lot of people want to work with athletes, they want to work with the individual, but those individuals live in communities, they have families. And so, yeah, we're working with the individual, but what about the community? How can we help the community as well so they can live better and thrive, right?
Yeah. When I think of the profession of social work focused on an ecosystems perspective and ecosystems theoretical base, and there's lots of different theories and systems theories, but one thing that I love is family systems theory, and that means that individual is part of a micro space with just like them, and then it brings out and out to their family, to their community, to their resources, it just keeps going out to get to this macro practice. So with family systems theory, we know that, I don't want to get too academic, darn it, but we do know that no individual can go unaffected by the circumstances with which they live, right? Right. But we're affected by where we live, who's in charge, who has the power, who has the resources, who doesn't, and on and on. And I think that when we take the power of sport and infuse it into our social work professional lives, and bolster it, that we have better chances for outcomes that look like the world that we want to see.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. You can't help the researcher and the academic in you. You start going off into theory and all this stuff, but that's pretty cool because, we do have a wide audience here. We have people who are academics, we have practitioners. So it's cool that you get to bring all of this in and kind of bring all of those perspectives in as a practitioner, as a researcher, as an academic, a lecturer, a professor. So Next, we'll try to simplify it here. So, how is sports social work actually defined? Like, can you give me a textbook, simple 1 or 2 sentence definition, and then what it means to you? And you've kind of alluded to that already, but maybe what it means to you in 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah, absolutely. So, sports social work is the practice subfield of social work that promotes social justice and social change by focusing on the unique needs of athletes, their allies, and the communities where they live. Athletes, allies, and the communities where they live. It's both at an individual and an environmental level, and it's promoting human and community well-being through the sport platform.
Y'all write it down. Write it down.
And you know
down. That's it right there.
That definition is actually getting published in the Sports Social Workers Desk Reference that is going to be printed soon, the 4th edition. And of course, that definition comes from UNI's desk, which I have to give a shout out because it's an evolution, as all studies are and all research. And it's an evolution from the work that was started by Matt Moore, Dr. Matt Moore at Ball State, and Dr. Ginger Gamalt at Lamar University, and they put together the very first textbook on sports social work that was used in the classroom, because to have sports social workers in the field, we need to have instruction in the classroom.
Right, and that book was published in 2018, right? 2018 or 2019, right?
I think it was 18, yeah.
2018.
Yeah. So shout out to Matt and Ginger, because we definitely want to see the second edition. Hinton.
Yes.
Yes.
And hopefully contribute to it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And if anyone has any questions specifically for Dr. Kratz or just in general, feel free to type them in the comments or in the Q&A. What is it? Montana Marie, I have that textbook and got to use it in my class with Dr. Gill. Cool. Dr. Gill was also a founding member of the Alliance. Thank you, and thank you for joining. So what about sport and mental health and wellness? You mentioned well-being and things like that. There's, like I said earlier, there's so many people and professions trying to tap into that athletic realm. So can you talk a little bit about sport, mental health, and wellness?
Yeah, I'd love to, because many social workers are licensed clinical social workers, LCSWs. Social workers are the largest group of professionals providing mental health services in America, and it's actually growing globally as well. And as a subspecialty of a licensed clinical social worker, or other, like in different states, it might be called an LMS or an LICSW, I think in some states, those social workers that are providing mental health therapy, many of them are specializing in athletes and the families of athletes, and including myself and several of my colleagues with the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports. We have a sports social work clinical committee, and there's about 35 of us in that committee that meet monthly. It's led by Jessica Joyner out of Denver and Christine Mosier out of the Boston area. And we're looking at athlete mental wellness and families across the lifespan. So even from, from using sport as an intervention, but also then clinical practice that is with athletes and promoting mental wellness and their practice as an athlete. And then also, of course, high school, collegiate, youth, professional, transitioned professionals. It's across the lifespan. And we know that with athletes, we do see, of course, depression, anxiety, certain diagnoses that appear at greater instances. We know that we have to look at substance use and behavioral addictive disorders.
Yep.
We look at that. We look at disordered eating patterns with athletes. Actually, Christine Mosher, Christine, if you're there, shout out. She's an expert in disordered eating. And we're also looking at the effects of trauma across the lifespan and how it impacts athleticism and sport participation. And we look at things like sexual assault and abuse and sexual assault and other realms of mental health and wellness. We also think about, when I think about sport and athletic activity, I think about building strong communities. And we know that sport and the body movement and the use of athletics enhances mental wellness. We know that. So that when communities, individuals, families, communities don't have access or are for some reason not able to tap into that resource, we want to make sure that we can advocate for breaking down barriers to that.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm thinking, Steph, I'm thinking about even girls that don't have access to sports. And how we know that's so limiting in across the lifespan. Even things like think about like the Sports Bra Project.
That's exactly what I thought about. Can you talk a little bit about that and how ASWIS partnered with the Sports Bra Project? I'll tag them too, so you guys can follow.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, the Sports Bra Project is I just love the whole mission, and that is to make sure that girls have the most basic piece of sport equipment, and that's a sports bra. And that's, we all know that sports bras can get very expensive. We know that it's sometimes not a priority in family budgets, team budget, but we have to break down that barrier so that girls stay in sport, because we know the benefits of play, and we don't want girls on the sideline, and we want more equality and access. And that's just one little tiny stream of what we can do as sports social workers, support things like the Sports Bra Project.
And even you mentioned things like sexual assault, and what comes to mind for me, you work closely with her, is Brenda Tracy, Set the Expectation. And, you know, it's things that have come to light more so now with all the scandals and things of that nature. But there's still so much work to do, and social workers are definitely right there, well equipped to help take that on.
Yeah, 100%. And I absolutely salute the work of Brenda Tracy and her company, her not-for-profit, hashtag Set the Expectation. And she's even, we should get her to come talk to us some more about this. I help her with some research projects, myself and Dr. Lauren Trednick. And, you know, her whole idea is that, if I could sum it up, I hope I do it with justice, that it's really men are needed to be part of the solution for sexual trauma and violence against women. She started out specifically in sport, and she does so much work with colleges and organizations to make sure that there's knowledge and accountability, but also then branching out to violence against women in all realms, because it doesn't just stop at a locker room door, right?
Yeah, and I recall vividly from her presentation with ASWIS about how men are the solution, or something like that she said. And it stood out to me, because she was like, you know, we think of, oh, it's all these men doing these type of horrible things, but really it's probably one, two, most men are not doing. So let's use them to motivate and mentor other young men, or men in general, to become the solution for the problem.
Absolutely, to partner and to work together and to collaborate as a unified front to stop women from being abused.
Right.
And I like that. I like that approach very much with collaboration and a unified front.
Yeah.
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 Very, very social worky.
Yeah. Collaborate. I love the expression social workers never work alone. Yeah.
Right. It's so true. We don't work in silos. We're very much interdisciplinary. And so for those of you who are not familiar, maybe not even social workers, who knows? You know, we never work in silo. We're very much interdisciplinary, even in sports social work. We work with physical therapists. We work with other mental health providers, sports psychologists, coaches, you know, the list goes on. So, yeah, so let's move on to the next question. Where do you think sports social work is headed?
Well, it's so exciting. It's just like the social work profession because there's so many realms we can go in, and oftentimes it's like overwhelming to inactivity. But what we do in sports social work is say, okay, from the context and the nascence of the Alliance of Social Workers, there certainly was a spotlight on collegiate athletes, right? And that was needed, absolutely. And we're getting so much more research in this arena, and then professional athleticism and athlete sport participation. I think that sports social work is growing also internationally. So internationally, there's a whole movement of sport for development. And that's using the sport arena to in countries and in communities and in neighborhoods to make sure that we're using sport to bolster communities and help them get to a place that they want to be, right? A place that they think that their community is strong and vibrant and thriving and providing for the community's members. So in the international realm, sports social workers are starting to become part of these organizations that are all over the world. So we're branching out, we're staying true to the needs of these collegiate and professional teams and branching into much more into youth development, sport for social development, sport as a tool for peace, which I think the sub-profession of sports social workers is starting to see our place in those discussions and helping make our communities better. There's organizations like Sport in the Service of Humanity. So and I love how that's phrased. It actually comes out of the Vatican. And there's a North American office in Virginia, and it's saying that sport is in service to. And I like that framework because it's what we give, not what we take.
Right. Yeah, no longer thinking of sport as just a form of entertainment, but as a tool that we can use and as a tool for individuals, communities, and the world at large. And I like what you said about how it's growing and even tapping into these other countries worldwide and other professional realms. And you can see that it's obvious. Like there's the job postings that come out about looking for more social workers in these sporting environments. If you're tuning in, or if you don't know, ASWIS has a job page where we post, and I think every 2 weeks that they post new jobs? Roughly every 2 weeks, new jobs in the sport realm, and you can just see the growth where before maybe we didn't have as many, and now they're coming out all the time in various different settings.
100%. And it's exciting to see that grow. Things like foundation work. So foundations that are committed to building strong communities, they want social workers in those positions as well. Philanthropic organizations, addition to foundations, but other philanthropies. I'm seeing lots of job searches for that. any professional sports team that has a place working in the community, those are places for social workers. So the social work field is, I always think of it in terms of anytime you have human behavior in the social environment, then you're talking about social work.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. It seems
Yeah,
so
like,
basic.
yeah, like definitely. But I mean, I may be biased because I'm here, right? Someone asked the question, Lori, what about involvement with the Olympics?
Yeah,
You want to speak to
absolutely.
that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that there's major growth there. Actually, the USOPC has committed to the growth of using sport and mental health and an interdisciplinary approach to making sure that the wellness of the athletes is addressed. And that came out of a lot of work that a lot of it started with Michael Phelps, actually, and the mental health task force that came out of that work.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some members that are part of the USOPC mental health team.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the correct title for it, Steph?
I think so. USOPC Mental Health Initiative. I think I may be misspeaking, but yes, it is USOPC.
Yeah. Recently, they had openings for 3 positions, one at each of the training campuses for the Olympic Committee, and those positions were open to mental health providers. That's what they wanted on. So you can see that, and I know that that was targeted to social work as well, sports social work.
And one of our ASWIS members, who's actually a part of the USOPC, is Cindy Miller. That's who it is. Yes. And then we have another question here in the chat, and feel free to put more questions in the chat. We'll be wrapping up here shortly, but we could take a few questions. As someone who has been practicing social work for a few years, this comes from John South. How does one begin to transition into this area as a career?
Come on, John. Come, really come join the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports. So much of professional development is surrounding yourself with the experts and the people that fuel you and know what they're doing and can share resources. And that is what the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports does. As a member organization, our primary focus is networking, providing education, providing resources. We have a listserv. We have our annual symposium that we just had, which was virtual. Again, we hope to be on ground next year. It is a great organization, and we welcome you fully.
And I can even speak to that as a newbie, so to speak. I'm surrounded by Dr. Kratz and others who have been, doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, working with athletes. And I think Therapy Vibes said that they have the same question. I literally started off becoming a member for the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports and just getting involved, reaching out to people. We're active on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Reach out. Hey, I'm interested in this. Who can I connect with? And just really making that effort to network and talk with people that are already doing the work. I've had so many conversations with new MSW students, and just connecting them with people to get more information, which have led to internships in athletics. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Look for a mentor, talk to people, ask questions. Don't be afraid to sound silly. There's no stupid questions. Feel free to network with me or Dr. Kratz or anyone else in the Alliance. We're kind of like a family.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you know what else is great? Within the Alliance, there's multiple committees, and each of those committees then has a whole core of people that become your people, your family, your sports social work family. So we have the Committee on International Sports Social Work. I lead that along with Dr. Moore from Ball State. We have, like I mentioned before, clinical sports social work. We have education. We have professional sports, youth sports, Tarkington Newman, right? And those are all the global experts that are meeting all the time, and you can become part of that group. You know, in any profession, the more specialized you get, the smaller the world becomes.
Yeah, and someone, Miss Montana, said, "How do you suggest students in BSW and MSW programs best prepare to try to become a sports social worker? You have clinical rotations or internships in your BSW and your MSW. Ask about getting put into an athletic department. Most athletic departments now have a mental health provider who could provide supervision, and a lot of them have social workers too. So, you know, whoever does your field placement, ask about it. Can I get placed in an athletic setting, and see where that takes you? That would be my first piece of advice.
I want to mirror that for sure, because, you know, of the hundreds of schools of social work in the United States, and then going internationally as well for our international members, many just really haven't been exposed to this subspecialty and really the power of sport, even though, of course, Mandela talked about in the famous quote about the power of sport. They just don't know, and that's okay. And they can call us too. Those field directors and those field instructors, we can help guide them. And we do that all the time anyway, and say, well, let's strategize in your area what's going on. There are multiple opportunities, and you have to be creative as well, because some people just haven't thought in those terms before.
Yeah. I just got my internship placement at the Academic Success Program for student athletes. My school didn't have sports social workers, and the psychologists couldn't take interns.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Who was that, Steph?
Miss Montana Marie.
Okay, Montana. Way to go. Way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for advocating for yourself. So
definitely reach out.
Yeah. I don't see any more questions. The connection through athletic trainers is another way to get connected. Correct. Thank you for that piece of advice, Dennis. See, we're a community. Dennis is a part of the alliance, so get connected.
Dennis is awesome. Hey, Dennis. Yeah.
So, go ahead. What were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, Steph, I just think that there's enormous opportunity. It takes energy and some passion to talk to people about athletes as a vulnerable population, because many times people think that athletes are purely of privilege. And we know that athletes throughout our history have also suffered through great injustice, and we're moving mountains lately. Just think of name and image and likeness policy. Think of the mandate to have embedded clinicians in teams. Think of all sorts of different just doors that have been knocked down, and barriers to barriers have been put up for inequality, and we're knocking them down, and we're going to continue, and we welcome everybody to join the team.
Yeah, even when we think about the diversity and inclusion piece, social workers are not just for athletes. Who created those policies about diversity and inclusion amongst coaching staff to get more representation at universities and stuff? There's social workers behind all that. So even at that more macro level, we're doing the policy work to make sure that athletics is an equitable and diverse place. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. Obviously, we haven't resolved everything, but social workers are a part of that too.
Yeah. Even in outside of the educational arena, like access to sport and athletic opportunities in especially communities that have suffered through racist policy, that don't have access. We're the ones that can and do lead those conversations.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna start wrapping things up here. We still have people joining, so thank you for joining. Is it Bantho Bardo? Welcome. We have an MSW intern with the Dodgers Foundation right now. Whoop, whoop. That's awesome, Yvonne.
Fight on, Yvonne.
So let's wrap up. If you would leave us, Dr. Kratz, with just your parting message for those who are here, who are listening in, trying to learn more about sports social work. What are your recommendations? What do you want to leave them with?
I want to say that sport is the great equalizer. And it has the capability to bring us all together to build strong communities and strong families and strong individuals. And social work is, I'm so biased, but social work is oh, so biased, the best profession to lead those conversations. Because we're talking about social justice, and that's what social work is about. And we're fighting for the rights of all and to build strong communities. So we want everyone to join the conversation. We want that, when I say we, I mean Alliance of Social Workers in Sports and all sports social workers. We need so much research, more research completed. We need more activity in our communities. We need bold voices in any way, writers, activists, advocates. There's room for everyone. So come join us.
Thank you. That's a very powerful message. So to everyone, join the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And also tune in for these live mini sessions. Next week, we're going to have a special guest Monday at 8 o'clock. We're going to have Lisa Bantasumi. She's the first ever mental health and sport performance specialist, aka sport social worker for the Oakland Roots. So we're going to have her on Monday next week. So be sure to tune in and you can learn more about what she does in her specific role. So thank you for joining, and Dr. Kratz, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Steph. See you very soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.